the Talaria XXX. Should you get one or should you not? So let's start with the things that we have done to this bike. Number one being this thing is running a full EBMX drivetrain. So it's got the X9000 on the front and it's got the XLB60 motor, the original, the standard one, not the new race, the OG. It's a lot of power. It's running a big boy 400 amp battery. It's also running the really cool Shinko tires. These things are actually very fun and I'll get to them in a minute and why they're on the bike. There's really one reason why they're on the bike. So how good is this thing stock? It's okay, it's all right. It's not exactly a power hungry beast, but it was never meant to be. I understand why this thing was built. It's cheap, it's an easy way to get into the Suron range of bikes. But I think this thing is its own little beast within itself, and there's a reason why we decided to fully modify this thing. I prefer this thing fully modified to a standard Suron. And the number one reason for that is I can have 30 kilowatt in a bike that resembles more of a mountain bike or a BMX than a motor. As you know, once you fully modify a Suron or an E-Ride, any of those sort of light B-based bikes, the Talaria Sting, they just look like a full-size motor, especially once you put 1821s on it, they just look like a motor. Even if you don't put big tires on them, they still don't really fit as a mountain bike and you still will get in trouble on them. Not to say that you won't get in trouble on this thing. I've just literally had no one bat an eye at this bike. And I got to put it down to the fact that we've got Shinkos on this. And between the tires and just how small it is, it really just looks like a kid's bike that's trying to be a motorbike. It doesn't look like a full-fledged moto, which is the best thing about this Talaria XXX and why this is my new favorite bike. Yes, you heard me right. This is my new favorite bike. This thing is so cool, right? It is just a little fun monster. So do you need the horsepower? No, you probably don't need 30 kilowatt. 20 kilowatt is probably pretty good. Even if you just did a controller and a battery, kept the stock motor. The stock motor is not very good though. It does overheat quite quickly. It definitely would be a lot better. But once you do throw in a proper motor, you don't have to go as extreme as the EBMX motors. But once you throw in a proper motor, I reckon even like a standard Suron motor, if you put in this thing, it's just 10 times better. Like it is just awesome. Proper motor, battery controller, and next minute you are riding a bike on the trails that doesn't look offensive, doesn't look like a moto, but you could absolutely crash anyone that wants to race you. And that's the best bit about it, is you're literally riding around on a bike, in this case, that's 450 horsepower. It looks like a kid's BMX, and it's just ripper fun. And it's the simple fact that this thing is just easier to get away with riding more places. It comes down to the accessibility once again. The fact that I'm not telling you to do this, there's a chance you can still get in trouble. But the fact that you can, in most cases, if you're being mature, ride on mountain bike trails makes this thing sick. I've just been absolutely ripping it up, and not ripping it up, I'm quite respectful, I don't rip ruts, and when you ride it like that, it is so much fun. It's a little shredder. Now getting to the downfall of this bike, and it's a massive downfall, is the rear end. It rides like a hardtail, and that's due to having no linkages. It is a big downfall. It's a big drawback. It sucks because this bike has everything going for it bar that. I understand why they didn't. It's cheaper, it's simpler, and it also makes for getting the battery in and out of the bike a lot easier because it's just on this quick release pin. The whole swing arm swings down and then you can drop the battery out the back of it. That does lead me to my other point. This is not really the sort of bike where you'll be interchanging batteries. So Having a second battery on this, it's not really that sort of bike like the Surons where you can have 2 batteries, easily hot swap them. It's quite a bit more complicated. Like, in order to get this battery out easily, you sort of have to have a stand like this where you can jack the bike up quite far in order to swing that swing arm the whole way down. So there, it's a couple of drawbacks. But that's not what this bike is meant to be. It's not meant to be a sender. It's meant to be a street warrior. As I said, a single track smasher, more like a BMX bike, like hitting BMX sized jumps is so much fun on this thing. I'm not a big lover of the Talaria Sting purely because of the gearbox, but this thing, I love it. Once again, it's got jack shaft. It takes a normal Suron Gates belt, which is sick, and it's just all round perfect. I love that Talaria got rid of their stupid gearbox. I'm sorry, I'm not a lover of the gearbox because it does break. It's not the strongest thing in the world. That's why the Suron platform bikes are so good, because they have a jack shaft, easily serviceable, easily fixed, easily replaced, right? Gearbox, not so much. Also, keep the weight down. Jack shaft is probably a quarter of the weight of a gearbox. I feel like if this thing had a gearbox, it definitely would have steered me the opposite direction. But the fact that it doesn't have a gearbox and it's so easily maintained, so easily fixed, lighter, all the rest of it, props Talaria, that's sick. So yes, if I had to pick one bike, my Suron or the Talaria XXX, I'd be taking the Talaria XXX every day of the week. And I guess you could say there's one big reason for that. On the weekends, I now ride my full-size motos. I don't really ride my Suron at all. And then I ride this thing at our local trail in the afternoons. That's sort of what I've been doing of late and really been loving this bike. Now we'll probably do a separate video on this bike, doing stuff like top speeds, racing this thing against a Light B platform bike, probably race it against a Light B, probably race it against a E-Ride. That is a video that I am keen to do in the future. But if we're just talking about the Talaria XXX and should you buy one or should you not, the answer is you should definitely buy one. It's sick. It is so good. It is so good. As I said, I prefer this thing over my Suron 100 times fold. It's just better. And the simple fact is that it's more accessible. More accessible something is, to me, the funner it is. I still love my full-size motos and will never get rid of them. If I had to have my full-size motos or this, I'd definitely pick my full-size moto every day of the week, because that's just me. I love big jumps, I love big bikes, I love sending it, that's my whole thing. But getting to ride this thing in the afternoons, knock-off time comes around and you just dip off to the trail, it is just an absolute handful of fun. And honestly, Talaria has done a really good job with this thing. It's so understated, like people don't even realize how much fun this thing is. It is sick, especially when it's fully modified. No one actually knows how much horsepower you've actually got. It's so funny when I'm out in the trails and you just light it up past a mountain biker and they just go, what the hell was that? Like, it's crazy, it's crazy horsepower. It's definitely a death trap. Definitely fair warning you. It will just spin sideways. It is a crazy bit of kit. So there you have it, the Talaria XXX. It is a beast. It'd be cool if you liked, even cooler if you subscribed, and we'll see you